The National Music Publishers Association is trying to weaken the compulsory mechanical licensing system. The major music publishers together own or administer millions of copyrights. Meanwhile, U.S. songwriters are legally prohibited from unionizing. If the compulsory mechanical licensing system is weakened or removed without the bargaining power of independent songwriters also being increased, then it would likely result in independent songwriters losing mechanical royalty share to major music publishers. The U.S. compulsory mechanical licensing system was created by the Copyright Act of 1909 and has since been modified. I made a video explaining it. I believe that system was probably a net negative for songwriters prior to interactive streaming becoming popular in the 2010s. Since then, I believe it has been a net positive, at least for independent songwriters. If I buy an independent singer-songwriter's album from a physical record store or iTunes for $10.99, a music publisher or a record label won't get a piece of that money. It is essentially a user-centric system. My payment would only generate music royalties for the music I choose to purchase. If I buy a $10.99 Apple Music subscription and only listen to that singer-songwriter's music, a music publisher or record label could get a piece of that money. That's because Apple Music uses a pro rata system. The royalties generated by my subscription fee don't necessarily generate music royalties only for the music I choose to listen to. Those royalties are divided between 3 royalty pools, each of which are essentially allocated based on stream share. In general, if a track made up 1% of a platform's total interactive streams for a given month, then it would be allocated 1% of each of the royalty pools. So even if that singer-songwriter's music made up 100% of my total streams, if they only made up 1% of Apple Music's total streams, then they would essentially only receive 1% of the music royalties generated by my $10.99 subscription fee. This can be exacerbated if different tracks are paid royalties at different rates per stream. For example, if a track is owned and distributed by a major record company that has negotiated a higher master royalty rate than a track that is owned by an independent artist and distributed by an independent distributor, then even if each of those tracks made up exactly 1% of the platform's total streams, the major record company track would receive more master royalties. An independent artist's music might need more streams than a major label artist's music in order to generate the same amount of master royalties. So basically, the pro rata royalty system is one issue, and having unequal royalty rates per stream can exacerbate that issue. Mechanical royalties are typically paid to songwriters, music producers, and music publishers. The U.S. compulsory mechanical licensing system ensures that on a platform like Apple Music, the mechanical royalty rates in a given month are the same for each U.S. interactive stream of a copyrighted musical work on that platform. This benefits U.S. independent songwriters who are legally prohibited from unionizing and thus would be unlikely to negotiate a mechanical royalty rate that is as high as what major music publishers would negotiate. Of course, the National Music Publishers Association is not a fan of the compulsory mechanical licensing system. In 2022, the NMPA and the Nashville Songwriters Association International agreed to a bad settlement with the Digital Media Association, who represents Spotify and other streaming services. I explained that agreement in another video. Spotify proceeded to take advantage of that bad agreement in order to reduce their mechanical royalty payouts by as much as $150 million in the next 12 months alone. The president and CEO of the NMPA, David Israelite, recently wrote a letter for Billboard and another for Congress in which he places the blame on the compulsory mechanical licensing system. He proposes that rights holders that meet certain conditions should be allowed to opt out of the compulsory mechanical licensing system and negotiate a mechanical license in a free market. That sounds nice, but it's not really a free market if U.S. songwriters are legally prohibited from unionizing. The major music publishers own millions of copyrights. If they opted out, they would likely negotiate a higher mechanical royalty rate for themselves. If independent songwriters who are not legally allowed to unionize opt out, they would be unlikely to negotiate a higher mechanical royalty rate for themselves. This would result in unequal mechanical royalty rates per stream, which would exacerbate the issues of the pro rata system. And even if independent songwriters stuck with the compulsory mechanical licensing system, the problem is streaming revenue is zero-sum. So if major music publishers negotiate a greater portion for themselves, then someone else would have to receive a smaller portion. The master side probably wouldn't accept a smaller portion, the streaming services probably wouldn't accept a smaller portion, and there is only so much they can raise their prices before they lose too many people to piracy, so independent songwriters would probably receive a smaller portion. Getting rid of the compulsory mechanical licensing system completely rather than partially wouldn't make this situation better for independent songwriters. Looking at what has been happening on the master side presents examples as to why. There is some compulsory licensing on the master side for non-interactive streams, but none for interactive streams. Here are 5 examples of master side issues. In short, without sufficient compulsory licensing and with U.S. artist unions hindered by many of the same laws that hinder U.S. songwriters, it has been open season on the master royalties of independent artists, so it stands to reason that the results would be similar with mechanical royalties. In my opinion, removing the compulsory mechanical licensing system in part or in full without also increasing the bargaining power of independent songwriters via something like more union rights or other legislative protections may work out well for the UMPGs, Taylor Swifts, and Max Martins of the world, but it could result in significantly less money for many independent songwriters. And given what has been happening on the master side, the bargaining power of independent artists should also be increased, or soon their royalties may be so eroded by record labels and streaming services that additional compulsory licensing or other government intervention may be needed on that side.